Through millions of years, our planet is continuously changing, causing habitats to be altered and modified. Natural changes tend to occur at a gradual pace, only causing a slight impact on individual species. But when these changes occur at a fast pace, the species are not able to adjust to the new circumstances, so the habitat loss is a cause of endangerment. Unfortunately, there is not only natural cause. All around the planet, there are many causes made by people's carelessness or for their needs. Endangered animals. The orangutan has considered critically endangered since 2000 and is one of the world's most endangered primates. A century ago, more than 230,000 orangutans lived in our world, but their numbers have now dropped by around half. Palm oil production, deforestation, and habitat fragmentation is threatening the last remaining orangutan populations. The loss of trees and other vegetation can also cause climate change, desertification, soil erosion, fewer crops, flooding, increased greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and a host of problems for people. Deforestation also makes the orangutans more vulnerable to the illegal pet trade and poaching. There are many types of orangutans, but the most endangered ones are Tapanuli, with only 800 left in the wild. They play a vital role in seed dispersal and in maintaining the health of the forest ecosystem, which is important for people and a host of other animals. Orangutans help to shape their forests and provide habitat and food for other fruit and eating species. So, by conserving the orangutan's habitat, we're also benefiting local communities and other species. Atlantic bluefin tuna. These bluefin are important to the ocean ecosystem, and they support fishing industries on both sides of the Pacific Ocean. Bluefin tuna numbers have declined at a staggering rate over the last 40 years. Overfishing is the main cause for the destruction of this species due to their commercial value as food. They have been heavily targeted for the Japanese fish market, where they are highly sought after for sushi and sashimi. While major threats due to fishing activities, organic pollutants and heavy metals are measured from the coast to the deep sea, and some pathological effects are suspected. Tunas are a top predator and food source in the marine food chain and help to maintain a balance in the ocean environment. Scientists believe that the collapse of bluefin tuna would negatively affect the sardine population, because its reduction, together with the rise of sea temperature, is causing a rising of jellyfish. Moreover, its disappearance would produce an imbalance of food webs. The polar bear, a symbol of climate change. Polar bears are set to become one of the most notable casualties of global warming. The impact of climate change is increasingly felt in polar regions, where summer sea ice is expected to decrease by 50 to 100% over the next 50 to 100 years. In other words, within the next century, the polar ice cap may completely disappear during the summer. Because polar bears feed are almost exclusively on ice-associated seals, changes in the sea ice that affect access to prey will have a negative effect on the bears. With less food, polar bears will fail to reproduce more often and give birth to smaller young that have higher mortality rates. Polar bears are reliant on the sea ice as their primary habitat. If climate change alters the period of ice cover, bears may be driven on shore for extended periods and forced to rely on stored fat. If these periods become excessively long, mortality will increase further as ice melts and the distance between flows increases, leaving more open water. Young cubs, which are unable to swim, may suffer greater mortality. Polar bears are likely to be among the most significantly affected species as the Arctic warms and sea ice melts. This happens because of global warming. The global warming is the connected system of the sun, earth and oceans, wind, rain and snow, forests, deserts and savannas. A description of the global climate includes how, for example, the rising temperature of the Pacific feeds typhoons which blow harder, drop more rain and cause more damage, but also shifts global ocean currents that melt Antarctica ice, which slowly makes sea level rise until New York will be underwater. So this is the dangerous part. Bees constitute a 120 million year old monophyletic group that today includes approximately 20,000 described species worldwide. They rely almost exclusively on flowers for protein, lipids, and sugar throughout their life cycle. Changing agricultural practices and increased farming intensification have led to large-scale losses and degradation of bee habitats, one of the main threats to their survival. For instance, intensive silage production, widespread use of insecticides also harms wild bees, and herbicides reduce the availability of flowers on which they depend, cause its extinction in certain countries. Bees are a keystone species. If bees die off, it will end most life. In nature, various animals depend on bees for their survival because their food sources, nuts, berries, seeds, and fruits, rely on insect pollination. Pollination also allows floral growth, which provides habitats for animals, including other insects and birds. Lastly, bees themselves, and the honey they produce are a source of food for many animals. While bee populations continue to decline, the production of food crops will decrease as well, as bee pollination is necessary for several important crops. Climate change is another important driver for most species of bees, and particularly bumblebees. Heavy rainfalls, droughts, heat waves, and increased temperatures can alter the habitats that individual species are adapted to, leading to population decline. Horseshoe crabs. Horseshoe crabs are older than dinosaurs. They've been around for 450 million years, which means they've watched the rise and fall of millions of other species and survived ice ages. Horseshoe crabs live primarily in and around shallow coastal waters on soft, sandy, or muddy bottoms. They tend to spawn in the intertidal zone at spring high tides. They are commonly eaten in Asia and used as fishing bait, in fertilizer, and in science, especially Limulus amabasite lysate. In recent years, population declines have occurred as a consequence of coastal habitat destruction and overharvesting. Most of the vaccines are tested for safety using horseshoe crab blood. Horseshoe crab blood is bright blue. It contains important immune cells sensitive to toxic bacteria. It's great for humans because vaccines save us from all sorts of unwanted diseases, including measles and mumps. It's not so great for the horseshoe crabs. Thousands of them are rounded up and bled every year. Someone could ask, why is it so important to save hundreds or even thousands of animals, while we have 7.8 million animal species in the planet? Well, protecting endangered animals has major implications. All the species of the planet have their importance. For example, farmers use insects to ensure the health of their crops. Without them, that could mean less healthy food for people. So, by animal extinct, our lives will be affected in different ways. Biodiversity and chain reactions. Diseases. Loss of medical sources. Economic effects. There are many solutions to change the situation gradually. Education, donations, avoiding plastic products, support companies which contribute to the protection of the environment, reduction in the use of pesticides, trying to save animals' habitat. I live in Kosovo. In my country, the Ministry of Environment took an action for creating a natural place, bear sanctuary park, for bears that were kept all around the country in cages near restaurants and parks to attract visitors while the conditions were very poor for these animals. This is a very attractive place for visitors where they can see bears' life very near and contribute by paying visitors' ticket a small price that raise budget for these bears' needs. Now they live in their habitat and they are safe. Well, I love bears. Thank you for watching my video. Bye!